there, emerging expat. You're tuned in to Let's Move to Portugal. I'm Victoria from Expats Everywhere's podcast, and I have the distinct honor of bringing you YouTube travelers and our resident Portugal experts, Expats Everywhere's Josh and Kalie. Each week they'll inspire, they'll educate, and they'll accompany you on your journey to Portuguese residency. This week on Let's Move to Portugal, Michael, an expat living in Portugal, shares his experience of remote work, living in Cascais, and the diverse expat community. He also compares living in Portugal to his experiences in China and Germany, highlighting the accessibility and transformational impact of living abroad.
Hey expats and travelers, welcome back to the Expats Everywhere presents Let's Move to Portugal podcast. Kalie, how you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well too, and I'm ready to kind of get rocking and rolling on this show. If you don't know how this format works, we have our little intro at the beginning with producer Victoria, and then we give you a weekly welcome when we talk about what's going on in the world of expats everywhere before jumping into the main portion of the interview, and this week it is with Mike.
Yes, he lives in Cascais. We'll get to that in a minute, but about his personal experiences and how he's jumped into the community there.
There are a lot of expats that have moved to the Cascais region, and we seem to be connecting with all of them.
Yeah, it's very true. And actually, we are going down there at the end of August, so that'll be good to actually connect with some of them in person, some of you guys in person.
IRL.
Yeah. Yes, but it's a popular area, which is why we always, have people to talk to in that area, because it's a very desirable spot.
I'm wondering when we go down there, because it's been a while since we've been there, actually. I think it's been about 3 years since we've really spent time there.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, has it turned into a little America?
Well, I think we've even talked about doing a video like how has Cascais changed, because we do have a city guide on it, and it's done really well, again, because it's a desirable area. But it has been 3 years. So, yeah, how has it changed? I'm curious, so
I'm guessing it's changed.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do a video on that.
But it's been a hot spot for many Europeans throughout the centuries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there have been royals that have had homes there. So yeah.
And honestly, area. I mean, that whole area, not just Cascais, but even when you head a little further east to Estoril and the places along the river before you get to Lisbon, a lot of great places there.
True. Okay, so what's happening in our world? We just released a video about bureaucracy.
Yeah,
it's
fun
like
stuff.
8 things we hate about Portugal.
Yeah. I don't know about hate, but difficulties.
Hate's a strong word, but hate also gets clicks.
That is true, actually, yeah. And I think that plenty of people do hate these things. If you get caught up in it, then you do at least hate the idea that you've gotten caught up in it. And it's really easy to get caught up in it.
It is.
So unfortunately, we talk about bureaucracy, and a lot of people say, oh, bureaucracy is so bad. But depending on how it hits you will depend on how bad you really feel it.
Yeah, and some people honestly have gotten hit with bureaucracy and they've really taken a hit.
Oh,
like you could take the same situation and give it to 2 different people and they'll react differently, right?
Yeah.
Some people take it hard.
Yeah, personality thing, stress levels, what stage of life you're in.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's so true. It could be lots of different ways that you take it. Some people just leave Portugal. Other people power through, and then everything in between.
Which I think that's a video we should talk about coming up. Like
the people who have left.
People who have left
because of bureaucracy, or just people
in
who
general,
have left. Why they left.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about why people have left Portugal, or if people are leaving in droves. The way that you've maybe seen some articles.
Poor journalism.
So we got the inside scoop on that. So we want to inform you about what we know, at least from our circle, with actual stories. And there's no real data on this stuff. Like Steph doesn't really, or Ima doesn't really keep tabs on it.
Yeah, and if they do, it could be vague, right? Because it could be like,
it's not granular. It's not the minutia that really tells you why someone has left.
Right. It's just that they left. Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? It could be that you've got your citizenship and you went somewhere else in Europe, or did you go back to your home country, or did your job take you somewhere else? I mean,
and if you went back to your home country, why?
Why? But we don't know. Yeah. But we do know people who actually have left, who have gone back to their home country.
That is not what this episode is about. But let me tell you. So we just did this bureaucracy video, and then coming up, we have a video about Vila do Conde, a city guide about Vila do Conde. We did one months ago about Povo de Varzim, if I'm saying that right. So they're
Accent
kind
on
of
the
like,
O.
yeah, poverty
First O.
You got to just run through it after you hit the emphasis on the first O. So those are two neighboring cities that are in the Metro Porto area. So we've almost exhausted kind of what is in Metro Porto, more or less. And then after that, we actually have done a great interview with a business owner that moved with his family and really kind of expanded their family while in Vila do Conde.
Right. They're from Hawaii. Came for a
Hawaii.
visit, talked about moving for a few years, and then just did it. So that's a good interview coming up as well.
And not without challenges and struggles.
No, of course not. But we definitely want to give you guys options for smaller towns, smaller cities, not just some of the top, Lisbon, Porto, Braga. There are other smaller places that some of you want to live. So we want to give you an idea of what that would be like. So that's why we that's why we put out those city guides.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what is happening otherwise? We have our building. It's moving. There's things that are happening. We are building. So that's nice. Mm-hmm. Videos are slowly coming out about that. I just don't have time to edit. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's really hard with all the other content we're putting out.
Well, and stuff is still kind of slow. To do a whole video, I guess, on what is happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to break things up. Like the next video to come out will be about demolition. However, the demolition hasn't completely finished. They're kind of doing it in phases. Yeah. So I'm recording demolition while also recording the concrete that's building the actual building, the structure itself. So both of those are happening kind of at the same time. It's like while demolition's being completed, construction via the concrete is starting. So I'm having to capture both things at the same time and keep files organized.
Not Josh's strong suit.
No, it's not my strong suit. So let's talk about Mike. What should we?
It's a great interview about Cascais, about building community, getting into all the different festivals and events that are going on there, what it's like really. We talk about, a lot of people want to say that Cascais is, like you said, overrun by foreigners, whether it's Americans or just foreigners. It's gotten really, really expensive. So we get his take on that because he's been there for a bit. So we get his take on the changes and if he thinks that it's pricey there. Well,
let's do it.
Let's chat with him.
All right, before we get started, let's talk about this week's sponsor, Green Ocean Advisors.
Well, I think the world right now can feel a little chaotic, but that doesn't mean that your finances have to, because I think when your finances feel chaotic, everything is just out of whack, right?
Yep, and Green Ocean Advisors will help you put together a plan to weather all those financial storms that may come your way. It's a little tricky whenever you make a move. You're often asking yourself questions like, is it time to invest in AI? What's up with that?
Ooh, AI, that's a good one. Or how about crypto? I think a lot of people talk about crypto or Bitcoin when it comes to Portugal because of the taxes. So is that for you?
Maybe closer to home is, should I sell my home before moving to Portugal or should I rent it out?
Everyone's situation really is different. So it's good to talk to a financial advisor about your specific portfolio before you make the move or even if you're already in Portugal.
Now, click the link in the description section below or in the show notes, depending on how you're consuming this right here. And be sure to click the one that gets you a free 15-minute consultation. It's specifically to Expats Everywhere. Thank you, John, for that. Now, on to the show.
Mike, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. If you could just explain a little bit where you're located in Portugal, how long you've been here, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi. It's great to be on. Thanks for inviting me, Kalie. And so I'm currently in Cascais, Portugal. About a half hour, 40 minutes west of Lisbon, and I've been here since April of 2023. And I came over here April last year and had looked at it for a couple of years. Looked at Portugal, and it's a place that we really want to look at retiring at. I am a financial advisor in South Dakota, and I still have clients there, and so I still work with some clients over in South Dakota and all in nationwide, California, Texas, Chicago.
Okay, so you're working remotely.
Correct, yeah.
How's the time difference?
It's actually pretty good for me because I'm so far ahead of everybody. Though, your evenings, which I've talked to a lot of people who work remotely over. Sometimes I do have to work late into the evening to make sure that available when the clients are out of work.
Oh, that can get pretty late then, right? Late at night.
Yeah, the one nice thing in my case is the markets close at 4 p.m. in U.S. So basically, I have until about 10 o'clock p.m. is when is the last time that I can execute any kind of a trade.
Okay, so
So
that's
it
not
doesn't
too
go
bad.
too late.
Yeah.
Where some people have to go real late.
Yeah, that's right. Like if you have a client on the West Coast, but it's not, dictated by the market, then you might be up really late.
Right, right.
But it's nice. Yeah. So you have the mornings to yourself. You can wake up casually, do what you want in the morning. And then what time do you normally get started on work then?
And normally, yeah, I don't start until the afternoon. Yeah, after early, it would be very early lunch here. That's right around 1, 2 o'clock.
That's nice. Okay. So a perk to remote working and then having clients and being on the time frame, the time zone of the US, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you choose Cascais?
Well, we visited with a couple that moved here from Ukraine, and we were looking at Lisbon and Porto, and then a couple let us come and see them down here. And when we came and saw Cascais, we both fell in love with the area right on the coast, quieter kind of an area, and just really, really very nicely maintained and very walkable everywhere you want.
That's great. So you've been there for over a year. A lot of people have talked about how the price has gone up there. Have you seen the prices go up there?
Well, I think we came here. Their prices were already pretty high,
Mm.
and yeah, it is continually going up. My landlord here, I think I'm paying a pretty premium price, and they increasing the rental rates by 10%. So I'm not staying this.
Oh, okay. So it's going up and you're moving. Are you finding it hard? Like you're staying in the Cascais area, but are you finding it hard to find other rentals for decent prices?
And I haven't started looking at because I'm gonna go back to the U.S. for about 3, 4 months, and so then when I come back, then I'll have to do that. I actually looked in Lisbon, and I kind of would like to live in Lisbon for a while just to be more comfortable with Lisbon, and I found a place at the same price, in a much nicer place than here. So I think that's probably what I would do is either to Cash or to Lisbon, or if you're going far enough north from here. I was just at a friend's yesterday, and he's paying 3,500. It's a 3 bedroom, but it's a very unique, nice place with great views and things. Where I'm at a garden level place, no view, but I have access for the dogs, stuff like that. What I want, and I pay 2,000. It's a 2 bedroom.
Okay.
So
In your search, what are you finding like just like a good price range that people should maybe target if they're looking for rentals? Like a 2 bedroom, what would be a good price in Cascais?
yeah, I think I think you're probably gonna pay around 2,000, and this is furnished. So really, though, I do think you could probably find something around the 1,500 range, between 1,500 to 2,000 for a 2 bedroom.
Okay. And you brought your dogs over with you?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So how was the move in general?
Yeah, really, mine went really well. There was just no problem at all. We had the 2 dogs under. We can put them under the seats. They're small dogs, so
Oh, good.
you give them the antidepressant medication, and they fall asleep. They slept really well, and it's not like it puts them out. It just makes them drowsy, and then they're comfortable underneath the seat. They liked it. The one big thing that we found, and I found other people did, they drove the distance instead of taking multiple flights. We took multiple flights, but we had big gaps in between. And so that was really, really helpful to have those gaps and to have your pre-check, because I had to take them outside to go on bathroom breaks because they refused to go to the bathroom in those dog potty things that are, I think, primarily set up for people with service dogs. The regular dog, our dogs anyway, they did not like the smell. I didn't either. They're tough. They're tough to go into, and so I was able to go out with each of the dogs and come back really easy because we had 2 to 3 hours in between every flight. So that's one thing I would recommend is having big gaps between the flights if you're having multiple flights, and then have the pre-check because then I could get weighed in very
Yeah,
easy.
much faster. Yeah, that's good advice. So then you're taking the dogs back with you.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Did you get them their EU passports, like the little pet passports?
No.
Yeah. So that should be easy. Easy when you come
Yeah.
back, right? Maybe not as much paperwork for the USDA, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good. So you're going back for a few months, mainly just because of work, or what's the plan with going back?
Mostly work related, and then kind of see just mostly work related, just to make sure I'm seeing clients, and I don't get a lot of new clients over here, and I'm kind of working on my strategy over here, working with clients over here, and most of the time I spent over here was with my current clients and exploring the area.
Okay.
Learning
So
some
it's
new things.
totally doable. Yeah. So it's totally doable to be a remote worker, live in Portugal, and then have to go back to the US for work. Like, it's a totally doable thing.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, good. In the Cascais area, how are you finding? Do you need to speak Portuguese or English is good? Or
Yeah, you really don't need very much Portuguese here at all. And I was just talking to this one friend. We had a group of friends that were together. We hiked together quite a bit, and he's been here 7 years, and that was one of the big changes he said in 7 years. Was the amount of English here is so improved over what it was 7 years ago. I do try to learn Portuguese, and I really wish I had spent more time at the beginning. I listened to a YouTube video. It's called it's by Chris is the guy's name. It's just 1,000 common phrases in Portuguese, and I started listening to that a couple months ago, and I really wish that I would have just listened to that day one and just listened to a little bit every day because it is really a hard language to break apart what you're hearing for words, and I say that from learning Chinese. I learned Chinese for 2 years. I was actually an English teacher in China,
okay.
and I find this language one of the things that I was just talking to these guys last night about that one of the things that I think a lot of the teachers you have that are Portuguese teachers, they bypass certain things to tell you, and like the M at the end of a word, you don't purse your lips at the end of a word when the M is there, and that's just kind of a simple thing that I discovered, but I didn't discover it until just a few months ago, really.
Yeah.
Just don't say that M. It's a different letter basically at the end of a word. Everywhere else, yeah, you do purse your lips, but don't.
Yeah. It's something so simple, but it's true. Like it's not something that's actually talked about in classes as much, right? But it's like
Right.
basics. Yeah. And then once you get that, like if you learn that later on and you've already been doing like that M, it's really hard then to unwind it, right?
Right. Because the first word you learn is bom dia, and I was saying that completely wrong. I was bom dia, and it's bom dia. So you just don't purse your lips. If you get that right at the very beginning, then you're on to a great path.
Okay, good.
It does help you push the language up into your nose. Basically, it's more of a nasal language. So it's I think if you learn that correctly, then you start learning the other words correctly or better too.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting though that you're saying that you think it's harder to learn Portuguese than it is to learn Chinese, Mandarin?
Well, just the pronunciation part, yeah,
Okay.
because even though Chinese or Mandarin is a tonal language, I think there's a lot of tonal to Portuguese, but they don't really talk about, like that M is a tonal. You're pushing it up into your nose, so and it's amazing how much the Portuguese notice that little sound like dog is cow, and if you say cow, they immediately look at you like, no, that is not correct. It's cow, and you have to.
Yeah. There's also some of those you don't want to mess up because you think you're saying a regular word, but you're saying maybe a slang for something that's not
Yeah.
as good. So you have to be really careful with that one. And it's a hard one. So yeah. Okay, so you lived in China. So it sounds like you've traveled a lot. You lived in other places. Where else have you lived and where have you traveled to?
So, yeah, I lived in China. That was in 97 to 99. I was in China. And then we lived in Berlin. I lived in Berlin, Germany for 6 months in 2012. And then I taught yoga in Vienna, Austria for another 6 months after that. And yeah, so internationally, Germany, Austria, and here.
Okay. So in thinking about like Europe, how do you compare the Cascais area with the different places you lived in Germany and Austria?
Yeah. I find it. I mean, like I was just in Berlin a couple weeks ago too, and you know the the culture and the amount of things going on in Berlin are just so diverse, and I mean there's just a ton more, but that is an enormous city, and then Vienna, obviously. The music culture and things. And Cascais is still it was an old fishing village, so it is more of a beach town, more of an outdoor kind of activity type place. So so I mean they are really apples and oranges. I think two differences, and I have not lived in Lisbon, though there's a lot more culture in Lisbon if you're looking for music, like the Gulbenkian Museum. They have events that I've discovered kind of late, but they have great orchestra. I went to an orchestra last week there. They have a great museum there, really an amazing venue. They've got something going on. I went and saw Ai Weiwei, the Chinese activist artist. He's moved to Portugal. He spoke there 3 weeks ago, so I got to go see him there.
Cool. All right.
And
So Cascais doesn't have as much of like the cultural events, but Lisbon does, and it's quite easy to get there.
yeah, and I shouldn't, and I mean, discredit Cascais. There's a quartet that plays here that a friend has introduced me to that we've got this monthly, and then from Cascais all the way to Lisbon, the communities along there, Carcavelos, Red, Oeiras, they all do have different events going on. It's pretty incredible. Even in the Casino Estoril, I went and saw Madame Butterfly. The opera was there about 3 weeks ago too. So there are, if you're on the lookout and you get connected, that's one of the biggest things that I've found here too is the more groups, and especially like WhatsApp groups, is one of the keys that I think I wrote down to you guys on my notes. You can get connected to a lot of different WhatsApp groups. Then you start meeting people with a similar interest or different interests if you want to try new things. There's a gentleman that puts on a poetry group here in Cascais, and I've never really been a poetry person, but I've started attending this, and it's fascinating that we'll sit down and we'll have a Portuguese poem, this Russian person I know, she'll do a Russian poem, and then the gentleman that runs it, Brian, he'll do typically an Irish poem, an Irish gentleman, and we've had an Iranian gentleman that came and did an Arabic poem there too. So it's fascinating.
Okay, very diverse then.
Yeah.
Well, how do you initially find out about these things? Like, how did you find out about this WhatsApp group?
Yeah, the first thing that I got connected with Brian was through Meetup. He had a Meetup group that was going on here in Cascais, but he no longer does that, and so that's how I got connected to a couple different people. And then through that, I think it was through that meetup that then I met a gentleman that his name is Jose. He moved here. He's Portuguese. He moved here back from America just a couple of years back, and he used to do a lot of organizing. Anybody that came into Cascais from America, he knew who they were, and so I met him, and then I met a couple other people that introduced me. Oh, they've got this group, they've got this group, and so you just the more people you meet, and the more foreigners, and don't be afraid to just say, hey, put your phone out and say, let's connect on WhatsApp, and maybe just ask them, are you connected to other groups? I didn't really ask people that. I didn't know about WhatsApp groups so much, and so it was later that I found out about the WhatsApp groups. And then I formed a few of them. Like I formed this Cascais Arts group, so we just talk about classical music, arts, different items, and it's a small group of us now. And that's it. What I would recommend to people over time is then you start forming, your group of friends, and maybe even form your own WhatsApp group. Then you find what your interests are and start a smaller group, because the bigger groups at first they're okay, but after a while, some of the bigger groups I don't know, they just get dynamics in them that we're all familiar with some of these bigger.
Like on Facebook, like some of those big Facebook groups.
Yeah, and I think those are good because I think like the American or the Cascais Expats group is a real good group. I think she's got 8,000 people. Julie does in that group, and she just does a monthly get together, and I think that's good that she just limits it to monthly get together, and that's a real good place that you go to and you start making these connections, get some people's contacts, and I still like kind of going to it, and I've talked to other people that they say, well, once they got established, they don't go as much anymore. But I like going to that, like sharing the things I've learned to new people and meeting new people and things like that. And Julie and John, who run that group, I think they're just really fun and interesting people. They lived in Dubai at years, and now I think they've only been here 2 years, and she took over this Cascais Expat group, and it's extremely successful.
Okay.
So
that seems like good advice, just to get into some of the bigger groups, go to some of the bigger networking type of meetups, and then, don't be weirded out to hand out your phone number or get people's phone number, because that's normal now, right? Like on WhatsApp, you just exchange phone numbers, you get into different WhatsApp groups, and then you can find like certain hobbies, right, that you like.
Right.
So you mentioned before that you go hiking. Do you do a lot of outdoorsy stuff?
Yeah, I like to do. I do the hiking. I went mountain biking once. I've done surfing. The surfing here, you can do surfing for extremely inexpensively. They either go to Carcavelos, which is the southern part of this area, or they'll go to Guincho, which is facing the west on the west coast. So there's always kind of an opportunity for beginners to surf, because the wind in Guincho it can be too big a waves a lot of times, but they've got an area there that they'll take beginners to, and I think I paid around 10 euros per lesson, or maybe it was 20 euros per lesson if you buy a pack of 10 of them.
Okay.
And they supply you with everything. You have to wear a suit here. The water's so cold. And then they'll give you a surfboard and lessons, and you go with a group. So the hiking, biking, and then I've met other people that do a lot of swimming. There's swimming groups here. I haven't done that. And then just different walking groups, coffee groups, paddle. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
It's different than pickleball. I actually like it better. It's a little faster, and you do play in pairs, and that is really big here. There's just near me. There's three courts you can go to, so very quickly you can get onto. There's some big WhatsApp groups that play paddle, and you can play whatever level.
Yeah, it's gotten really big here too, up in Porto. Yeah. paddle has
There they
become
go.
really popular. Yeah. So
And
the best
it's
thing to
fun.
do is it's fun. Yeah, I don't do it, but yeah, we know a lot of people who do. So the best thing is you get into these different WhatsApp groups to get plugged into these different types of activities. Even the surfing, or like with surfing, do you just walk down by the water and try to find like a surfing school, or what's the best way
Yeah.
to find that stuff?
Yeah, that one I got connected through another gentleman I met, and he was in it, and he was with Surf Cascais, which they have. They also have a bed and breakfast here, so they typically have a group that goes out. Well, they do, I think they go 1 to 2 times a day, and so that one, that's how I got connected with that. So I don't know as far as, and I think there are WhatsApp groups, or you'll meet people here that I've met many people that they do that. They go surfing every single day after.
Oh wow, sounds like a workout.
That's not
Yeah. Okay, so just really getting yourself out there and chatting with people, and that's how you kind of get into these different groups. All right, great. Do you find Qashqai should be kind of small, or like that you run into the same people all the time, or that doesn't happen there?
And yeah, it's small enough that you do start over time. You will start running into, especially if you go down into the village area. But the nice thing about the village area of Cascais compared to like the other community I was talking about, like Oeiras or Red or Carcavelos, those are much smaller than Cascais. Cascais has a little bit bigger of a village, and it's an area that you can walk around in and get lost in the alleyways and like that. So it's a little bit bigger, I think, than most of the smaller communities between here and this.
Okay. Do you have a car?
And I did not. I did not get a car, and I think I would rethink that to some degree if I were. I've talked about that before. That because I'm pretty easy access. I have a bicycle, so I bike to the train station typically, or bike to the bus station, because you can catch the bus here right by me, but a lot of times they're early, and so if you get there on time, you've missed the bus, and it's got
Okay. All right.
and so you gotta wait for the next. So I just decided, I'm just gonna go to the train station because then I know the time they're gonna be there on that time. And it's not that far from me, and I can just lock my bike up. And
Okay,
then
so
on the
you leave your
train,
bike. You leave your bike there. So like when you go into Lisbon, you take your bike to the train station, you lock your bike up, and then you're in Lisbon for like the day.
right, and you
Okay.
can take your bike to Lisbon on the train, but I just haven't. I just feel like that's too much of a hassle, and I don't. I don't. When I get to Lisbon, I'm not tending to ride around.
Yeah. So then why are you thinking a car would have been a better idea?
Well, the one thing is with a car, I rented a car a couple different times, and once you have a car, then I explored all over. I went up to Nazaré a couple times. I drove down to the Algarve, and so and that is one thing that you can do off season is you can just rent a car pretty inexpensively, and I think it ended up being 300 to 400 euros with and I always get the full insurance, and I did have a little dent on one, and it covers it perfectly. So during the off season, you can get a car rented pretty inexpensively. So that is one option. But if you get, that's another thing about the WhatsApp groups is I got onto a secondhand sales WhatsApp group, and they have properties and cars on there. And I went and test drove like a 4,000 euro, I think it was a Nissan or something. And I kind of think that you could if you looked long enough, looked at secondhand, you could find something for under 5,000 euros, and then you do have the car, and then you could probably resell it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting because I think a lot of people are, wondering about secondhand stuff. So that's a WhatsApp group that's based in Cascais for
Right.
secondhand stuff. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Good to know that that's out there. And for larger things as well, because some people do ask me about like furniture. And while we have like a lot of antique shops, some of that secondhand stuff that's not like antique-y, it's like, where do you get that? So, okay, the
Right.
WhatsApp groups. Yeah, that's good to know.
And And one thing and that I learned, I was in the military for a short period of time back in the 80s, long ago. But in the military, you get people that buy stuff, and then they're shipped out, and they sell all this stuff really cheap. And that you find that here, that lots of people are moving here, and they buy all kinds of furnishings for their houses, and then they either decide they want to move back or they're moving. And so then the things that I've seen on that secondhand, I mean, it's unbelievable. Beds, furniture, chest of drawers. If you just want to pick up things, if you're not concerned about the style right away.
Yeah. Or matching. Sometimes
Yeah,
you
right.
get kind of like a hodgepodge, but it's like, yeah, if you get a good price for it and it's functional. Well, that's
hmm
interesting. You talked about people, selling things because they're moving. Are you finding a lot of people are like landing in Cascais and then either moving to a different part of Portugal or a different part of Europe or going back to the States? Do you see that a lot?
And I haven't really seen it, actually, not a whole lot really. But it appears that there must be most of the one group that I'm the most active in. It's a men's WhatsApp group, and those are mostly people that have retired, and they're pretty set here. So I haven't seen a lot of movement them, but I just from seeing the site and hearing from others, it sounds like.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of the world we live in these days. It's a little easier to do that, right? To move around
Mhm.
more. Okay. And then earlier you were talking about the car and in off season you could rent. Do you notice a big difference around Cascais during like the summer? Like, does it get really busy in the summer or like, is there like an off season that would be a great time to, if someone is visiting to go visit Cascais?
Yeah, I think, and during the season, during from June all the way through August, it gets really busy, and the traffic is a problem because there's basically one road that leads into that village area, and that can be backed up for blocks at a time. So that traffic and the number of people walking down there is quite a large. Um, and so then after those 3 months, really, it's not too bad. They do still have some traffic issues down there, before work or after work when people are traveling in and out of here. There are lines I see, but overall, those 3 months are, I think most of Portugal is pretty tourist centric, so it's quite a few people.
Yeah, in the summer. Do you find that it's active pretty much all year round? Like, 'cause there's some places down in Algarve that, people maybe don't want to live there because it gets really sleepy in the winters. And so it's like, well, I don't want that. But would you find Cascais, it doesn't really have a sleepy time, right? It's pretty active all year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. There's just the boardwalk along the ocean. There's a few of the restaurants there that do close over the winter months. I'd say maybe about half of them, but it's not like you're going to go to those restaurants that much anymore anyway because they are more expensive, and there's still enough of them open that if you want to go down there, you can get coffee or you can get fish down there. But the most of the restaurants in the village area, I don't think I can think of any that close during the season.
Yeah. Okay. Does it get cold in the winter there, or cold or rainy, or what's the temperature like?
It's humid. It's humid and cooler, and it never gets really cold. But I do have a heater in mine, and a lot of Portuguese don't have heaters. So a lot when I was looking at purchasing a home, many of the homes you look at they don't have a heating system at all, or they maybe will have a fireplace, and so they don't a lot of them don't use it. And two reasons I found that I like it is, first of all, I don't like walking around with all my coat and things on, and then secondly, the humidity can get pretty high here. So if you run heat and dry the air out, it helps fight against humidity. And I haven't had. I'm in a lower level walkout, and so humidity can be bad in some of those that are somewhat underground. I do have a big walkout here, so it's it's not completely under, but I looked at some where you could see mold residue around the windows. So it is something and it was rainier here. A lot of people said it was rainier here this fall, or the end of winter in February, March, and April were rainier than norm.
Yeah. Yeah. Same up here. So you guys have to battle with mold as well. Up in the north, we get that too. I gotta watch out for that. So yeah, all over Portugal really, because the humidity, right? It definitely does that. When you walk around Cascais, do you find, is there a certain demographic, or do you find that there's young people, there's families, there's retirees, like or is it generally one more demographic more than the other?
I mean, I would think when you walk around the village area, then it's very touristy, and I find it a mixture of people, primarily a mixture.
Okay. And for living too? Or like when you go to some of these big
Yeah,
meetups and stuff, are a lot of people retired or remote working, or what do you find?
yeah, and I think then again there's a mix. I do find that I think the Algarve is much more retired than here. I think it's a little more older, and that's firmly they have moved there because they are retired, and uh, that's it. Where here, it's a mix of people that are still working. Like the gentleman I went to his house yesterday, a Spanish guy that moved here, and one of his friends is a German guy. He still works. He's getting close to retirement. Has a child. Is going to school here, and another friend of mine from Sweden. Him and his wife have moved here, and they have a young child in school. My neighbors upstairs, they have 3 children that are all going to school. They're from the U.S.
Okay.
and the international schools here. So I do find that I think there's quite a mix.
And sounds very diverse too. Lots of different nationalities living there.
Right, lots, and I think British, a lot of UK people were some of the first to come here, and a lot of I'm friends to a lot of German folks here. People from South Africa is another one, and a lot of Brazilians.
Yeah, that's great. Would you find that Cascais, like you would say, Cascais is not for this person? With a little bit of a
Yeah,
laugh.
yeah. I guess maybe if you really want big city living, yeah, then you would. And my wife is more interested actually in Lisbon than here, because she would rather be closer to the Gulbenkian and theater and things like that. So, she's Asian though, so she does like the.
Okay. How does that work with the couple dynamic one? I mean, it's not necessarily that you don't like that, right? But she really likes it, so you'll just concede. Is that why you'll end up in Lisbon at some point?
Right. I think you got to just try it out,
Yeah.
see what it's like, and I myself kind of like being here, and I can always go to Lisbon. Though I do find that I don't get to, when I go to Lisbon, I'm like, wow, I should be here more often. But I've never lived in a big city. Though I did live when I lived in China. I was in one of the largest cities in China. Chongqing is the name of the city, but it wasn't in the center of the city. So I've never lived like in a New York type of what we consider a New York City atmosphere. And if you lived in Lisbon, you're a little bit more like that because there's so many tall apartments there, and you can find those areas here in Cascais where there's a lot of tall apartments. I happen to be kind of in the southwest portion of Cascais, and just north of the village, so I can walk 10 minutes from the village. But my area is very much a residential area. A lot of large houses that, from what I understand, were built in the 1970s when after the revolution, and then they stopped the war in Angola. That they had millions of people come to Lisbon and Cascais, and a lot of this area was built up then. and it's really very residential. I can walk right to the ocean in 15 minutes from here, and be in an area called Casa area. Right.
All right, great. Well, at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. So, how has living abroad in general and in Portugal transformed your life?
Wow, that's a deep one. Yeah. I think it's in many ways. I think number one is, just getting to meet all the different international people here has been just phenomenal. Like I mentioned, a lot of different people I've met, and the Portuguese folks I've got to meet here. I've gotten to know a couple Portuguese folks really well. And so that's been pretty transforming for me. And then the big thing about living somewhere else is learning where am I going to shop, who are my friends going to be, what activities do I want to do. So for that first 6 months to really almost a year, you're really focused on a lot of that. So the time in some ways seems to go kind of slower in a sense, because you're really having to listen to a lot of different things, and so it kind of slows time down in a sense, and really intentional about what you're doing. And then when you look back in a year, and you just look at how much I've learned since being here, just that first year. And a lot of people tell me that after the first year, then and things start to go faster, and it turns into just living regular. But the other thing about I think most of Portugal, and I think Cascais, is that everything is very accessible. So it's not like going to when I went to China, and there I was an English teacher in the school, appointed a person to assist all us in almost everything that we did, from hell to going to get food. And so in the beginning, we had an assistant to really help us in a lot of ways, where here I did it all on my own. And it's easy to do on your own, though it definitely helps to connect to people in the beginning, especially if you come here visiting a couple of times and connect with some of these bigger groups, and connect with a few people and get on maybe a couple of WhatsApp groups. And then you kind of have a little bit of a clue what to do before you get here. And then it isn't nearly as difficult as China.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, great. Michael, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah. Thank you.